My dad got remarried without telling me at all, and even though I hadn't seen him in 9 years, his new wife really wanted to meet me, so I met up with her and revealed the real reason why we weren't close anymore. My dad practically gave me up to his sister from the moment I, 27M, was born. My mom died when she was giving birth to me. And my aunt told me he never recovered from that because he blamed me for her dying. It hurt a lot as a kid that at family events he would ignore my existence. When I was a little older he got more vocal about me killing her and he can't stand to look at my face. You can imagine the amount of therapy that put me in. I used to go to church crying because I was scared about going to hell for doing that to my mom. That's how much his words messed me up. But the worst part was that I never stopped trying to be accepted by him. After my high school graduation he told me to never bother him again since he legally has no obligation to me anymore, since he was sending my aunt money to take care of me. Around that time is when I finally started accepting that reality, so from there we moved on with our lives. My aunt doesn't talk to me about him. Sometimes my grandparents do, and that's how I found out he got married. They were mad he didn't invite me to their wedding, but to me it didn't matter because we're not close. But it was his wife who wanted to meet me. It's the first time he's ever wanted to make contact, and it was to say pretty much that she wants me in their life. She doesn't know the real reason about why we're estranged. He asked me to please not say anything and maybe this could be a way to reconcile after all. But he was only doing it for her. That much was clear when we talked. I never said I would be there, but he still insisted on us meeting at their place because she really wanted to meet me. All she thinks is we were estranged for not getting along in my teenager years, going to college and losing touch because of life stuff. It pissed me off that he played it off as us just not talking for petty reasons, meanwhile the actual reason damaged me for years. I told her the truth. Everything he said to me. That he was never a parent to me, that was all my aunt. It was definitely a shock for her. The outcome was a disaster. Everyone has heard about this now. My grandma, in particular, told me she understands my anger. But this was his chance finding someone since losing my mom, and now it's been put in jeopardy. My dad is devastated. They think it was going too far to ruin his marriage that way when he was willing to include me in their lives, which could have been the start of our relationship. And they say not only did I ruin that, but also possibly wrecked his marriage. She just doesn't agree at all with what he did, and it could have been avoided if I didn't say anything. For me it was hard not to tell the truth after the lies made it seem like it was nothing serious. I couldn't ignore what happened after what it did. I'd give it was the right call since it put their whole marriage at risk after all. Commenter 1. Dude, not a jerk. Your dad is a grade A double cheeseburger butt from Satan with a special topping of jerk served with jerk sauce. He deserves every bit of what happened to his second marriage because he presented himself as a different person than he is. I am sorry you had to go through this. I wish you strength and may you find more people who love you unconditionally. Commenter 2. Not a jerk. She has the right to know the true man she married. Also, I am so sorry you had to endure all that. Your aunt sounds like an incredible person, and despite everything, I hope you are doing as well as you can be under the circumstances. Commenter 3. I feel like your family should have protected you from your father more. He ignored you for years, then when he did acknowledge you, he told you to your face you killed your mother. I mean, that is beyond hurtful, and kudos to you that you got through it. You were not spiteful or vindictive, nor nasty in your delivery. You simply told the truth. And the truth, unfortunately for your father, paints him as the disgusting human he is. Your father put his own emotions and needs over yours your entire life, even up until that point. You were only allowed in on the pretense of lying about your entire existence. Would you have had to keep that up forever? Again, causing you mental anguish, but making things easier for him and his new wife. Honestly, that longing for a father, let it go. Your aunt sounds as though she has been a better mother, father, friend than you could have asked for anyway. And your father needs a boatload of therapy. None of this was your fault. NTA. Update. Words can't express how much it meant to me getting so much love from my last post. Everyone who supported not just my actions but also acknowledged the hurt. To all the sweet internet moms who commented and DM'd me, y'all know how to make someone feel loved even by total strangers, lol. Since so many people wanted an update, here it is. It's a little heavy and for a couple days I needed some time to process it and do some crying. They're splitting up. Heard it first from my grandma, then from his wife, or I guess ex? She was legit crying on the phone when she called to tell me sorry for putting me in that position. Her and my dad had a longer conversation where he told her everything else he did, so she made that decision she can't stay with someone like him. And she wanted me to know how disgusted she is, also to tell me thanks, which is something I really needed to hear. My dad is who he is, yeah, but regardless, two people splitting their marriage because of what you said is a hard thing not to feel guilty about. This lady is heartbroken going through divorce just a few months after getting married, and she wanted to make the time to reassure someone else that they made the right choice. Unexpectedly though, my dad wanted us to talk yesterday too. My girlfriend again didn't want me to. Trust me, I get her point. She's the one who didn't want me having dinner with them in the first place. For one thing, we didn't know what he wanted to talk about and what would that do to my mental health. It was probably a bad risk to take, but I met with him. And yeah, I should listen to my girlfriend more when it comes to this stuff. First time in my life I think we had a conversation about my mom. How much he loved her, them being happy and excited about having a family. But then she died and he told me even if it's wrong he can't ever not blame me because simply, if I hadn't been born, she'd still be here. He's only sorry for not completely staying away from me and saying horrible things growing up. While he wasn't saying this to be malicious, since he seemed sincere, it was still an ouch for me. In the end we decided having a relationship with each other was never gonna happen and said goodbye. He at least apologized for trying to put me in that position. First good thing he ever did was tell me what happened with his wife wasn't my fault. Then I just went home and cried. Had my day to process, a short therapy session and support from both my aunt and girlfriend to get me through. The rest of my family is leaving me alone, at least so glad that in the end it was resolved. Not a total happy ending I know, but in the end it's better this way. Commenter 1. I'm sorry you were given such a spiteful man as your dad. His grief may have started how he treated you, his spitefulness and overall anger has clouded his judgment. You are not responsable for his mariage dissolution, only his actions are the culprit. The one thing you can see as the light at the end of the tunnel, is that you now know that he knows that he is responsable. His acknowledgement and respect is no longer warranted, as why would you associate with him outside of being your sperm donor? Find your own family that you chose. I have done that when I have officially cut my dad out of my life. Surround yourself with worthy people who love you. Commenter 2. You, by your own words, ruined his marriage, even after your post saying that you had moved on. Obviously you haven't, you held a grudge and because of this you exacted revenge and you seem okay with that. You obviously possess the same emotional disconnect that he does, the same disconnect that allowed him to hurt you. You could have chosen not to meet his new wife, you could have chosen to be the better man, you chose neither. In time you will be able to rationalize your behavior, and maybe you will realize what you done was wrong. She thanked me for telling her the truth, so no. I don't feel bad at all. Maybe you were okay with lying to your partner about important things, so that's probably something you should work out yourself. Hope you get some help.
My sister's cooking is horrendously gross, like it's almost unedible, so I told her not to bring anything to Thanksgiving this year so the guests could actually enjoy the food. She's bringing her special recipes to Thanksgiving anyway. Every year, our family does a big Thanksgiving dinner, and we all typically bring a dish or two. My sister, who's a lovely person in every other way, insists on cooking something homemade every time. The issue? She's not a great cook. And I don't mean just not great, I mean she has somehow managed to turn classic dishes into borderline inedible creations. For context, last Thanksgiving, she showed up with her special recipe stuffing that was over-seasoned with random spices like cinnamon and cardamom. It was dry, and the flavors were confusing and totally off for stuffing. Only one person took a small bite, and the rest went untouched. Another year, she brought a green bean casserole that had some kind of strange, chewy texture. She later admitted she used coconut milk and almond flour to experiment. No one wanted seconds of that, either. This year, I'm hosting Thanksgiving. Since I'm responsible for putting it all together, I wanted to keep the menu consistent so that people could actually enjoy a cohesive meal. I thought I'd avoid drama by asking her to bring non-food items instead, like wine, soda, or even some flowers. I explained to her, very kindly, I thought, that I just wanted to make things easy and streamlined, and I'd handle the main dishes. But she didn't take it well. She got offended and told me I was being controlling and shutting her out of the family gathering. She then accused me of making her feel inadequate and said that Thanksgiving is about everyone contributing, not me deciding what's acceptable. I told her that everyone appreciates her effort, but that she could contribute in other ways and still be part of it. She doubled down and said she's bringing her famous green bean casserole whether I like it or not. Now, my mom and a couple of other family members have chimed in, saying I should just let her bring whatever she wants because it's Thanksgiving and it's the thought that counts. They're acting like I'm committing some huge offense by wanting the food to be enjoyable for everyone and not have random experimental dishes that no one will eat. But I feel like I'm just trying to keep the meal enjoyable and, frankly, edible. I don't think it's wrong to want guests to actually enjoy the food, especially since I'm putting in a lot of effort to host. Am I really being unreasonable here? Am I a jerk? Comment. I'm just super curious what other things she's made. If you're willing to expand on a few more. I want to know how bad we're talking here. Oh, buckle up, because there's a list. Here are some highlights from past family gatherings. Thanksgiving 2019, she made a spicy cranberry sauce that had whole chunks of jalapeno in it. She insisted it was elevating the flavor profile, but it ended up making people's mouths burn while eating turkey. We tried to pair it with other stuff on the plate, but it was a no-go. 2. Christmas 2020, she brought a fusion mac and cheese with wasabi and horseradish mixed in. Let's just say it was a very unexpected flavor to experience in a traditionally creamy, comforting dish. There were some coughs and watery eyes at the table that night. 3. Easter 2021, she made a carrot salad that had shredded carrots, raisins, and sardines. She claimed it was based on some Mediterranean recipe, but I'm pretty sure no Mediterranean grandma would approve. 4. Last Thanksgiving, this was the infamous cinnamon cardamom stuffing. She wanted it to be warm and aromatic, but it ended up tasting like a holiday candle. The texture was also super dry, and even though she noticed no one was touching it, she blamed it on us not appreciating new flavors. 5. Family barbecue this past summer, she did a barbecue tofu thing that had an odd vinegar peanut butter sauce. I don't know what cuisine inspired that, but it didn't belong anywhere near a grill. People tried to be polite, but most of it ended up going home with her. So, yeah. This isn't just me being picky. She's made some real adventures out of classic dishes, and I'm genuinely nervous for what she's planning with this whole Thanksgiving trio experience. Update 1. Alright, so Thanksgiving is now just a little over 2 weeks away, and somehow, things have escalated even further than I thought possible. I thought maybe my sister's Thanksgiving trio experience would be the peak of the drama. Well, turns out I was wrong. Since the last update, my sister has become fully committed to making her dishes the main attraction. She's been dropping hints in the family group chat, which I'm still not included in, but shout out to my cousin for the screenshots, about how this Thanksgiving will be one to remember and calling it her Thanksgiving debut. She's apparently been referring to herself as the Thanksgiving head chef and has hinted that she's bringing some kind of culinary surprise centerpiece that will transform the whole experience. From what I can piece together, she's planning a main statement dish in addition to her original 3 side dishes. I'm picturing something equally bizarre but on a much larger scale, and honestly, I'm terrified. If her green bean casserole was already pushing it, I can't even imagine what she thinks is worthy of being the centerpiece. Then, to make things even weirder, my mom texted me privately and suggested that I step back this year and let my sister shine since she's so excited about her contributions. My mom thinks if we just give her this moment, it'll make her happy and she'll get it out of her system. She even hinted that maybe I should focus on decorations and drinks instead of the main dishes, which feels like an attempt to turn hosting over to my sister without actually saying it. So now, I'm left with a choice: go along with my mom's plan and let my sister essentially hijack Thanksgiving, or keep pushing back and risk a family showdown. I just wanted a nice Thanksgiving with dishes everyone would enjoy, but it seems like I'm either about to hand over the whole meal to her, or prepare for some serious drama. Thanksgiving isn't even here yet, and it already feels like a circus. I'm half tempted to just sit back and see what chaos unfolds, but part of me is still worried about subjecting the whole family to whatever artistic statement she has planned. Update 2. Here we are, the day before Thanksgiving, and things have continued to spiral. I decided to let my sister move forward with her trio experience since pushing back more would only make things worse. I thought we had a plan: she'd bring her dishes, and I'd make sure there were plenty of other options to keep the peace. This morning, my mom let me know that my sister is now adding a surprise dish to her contributions. She's been very secretive about what it is, which has everyone nervous after her past attempts. My mom thinks it's sweet that my sister is putting in so much effort, but a few other family members are not as optimistic. My cousin texted me privately asking if I had backup food ready, and my dad casually mentioned bringing extra rolls, just in case. At this point, I've decided to stick with the plan and let her have her moment. I'll still have a few traditional dishes on hand so no one goes hungry. Tomorrow will probably be chaotic, but it should at least make for a memorable holiday. Wish me luck. I'll update after Thanksgiving if anything noteworthy happens. Update 3. Thanksgiving dinner is officially over, and I genuinely don't know where to start. I feel like I just lived through a fever dream of culinary chaos and family drama, and I need a moment to breathe before I can even process everything. My cousin and I are heading out for drinks to dissect all of it because honestly, what just happened deserves its own Netflix special. I'll post photos later when I get home, but for now, let me try to give you the rundown. So, my sister showed up earlier than expected, which I should have seen coming. She came in like a storm, carrying not just her 3 dishes but also this giant platter wrapped in foil, which she was clearly trying to make a big deal about. She immediately started rearranging the table, moving my dishes to the side so hers could take center stage. She even brought her own table runner and candles, saying something about setting the mood for a creative dining experience. I decided not to fight her on it because, at this point, I just wanted to get through the night without a blow-up. Her trio experience was, well, let's just say it was everything I feared and more. She started with a glittery sweet potato mash that somehow managed to taste like a mix of sugar and sand. The glitter wasn't even edible glitter, it was craft glitter, which I didn't realize until one of the kids said, "This is crunchy," and I looked closer. Then there was the cranberry and oyster relish. Yes, oysters and cranberries. It looked like someone had spilled jam into clam chowder, and the smell alone was enough to make me lose my appetite. Finally, she brought a pumpkin curry casserole that had raisins in it for some reason and this weird fishy smell that clung to the air for way too long. But the pièce de résistance was her surprise centerpiece dish, which turned out to be a turkey gelatin mold. Yes, she took ground turkey, mixed it with some kind of broth and seasonings, and turned it into a wobbly, translucent mold shaped like a turkey. She even garnished it with parsley and cherry tomatoes to make it festive. I wish I were kidding. The entire table went silent when she unveiled it, except for my cousin, who immediately started coughing to cover up what I'm pretty sure was a laugh. Things hit their peak when my mom, who has been defending her this entire time, took one bite of the gelatin mold and just froze. She didn't say anything, but you could see the regret on her face. My sister, noticing the lack of enthusiasm, decided to go on this long speech about how Thanksgiving food is too boring and how she's trying to challenge our palates. She even called my ham and mashed potatoes uninspired, which was rich coming from someone serving glitter sand potatoes. The breaking point came when my aunt, who's usually the peacekeeper, tried the gelatin mold and actually gagged. She tried to be polite about it, but my sister saw her reaction and completely lost it. She started yelling about how nobody in the family supports her and how we're all stuck in the past with our unoriginal food. She even accused me of sabotaging her dishes by not hyping them up enough to everyone. At this point, half the table was trying not to laugh, and the other half was just staring at their plates, probably wondering how we got here. My sister ended up storming out of the house, but not before saying something along the lines of, "You'll regret not appreciating my vision when I'm famous." She left most of her food behind, which my cousin and I quietly threw out after dinner. The rest of the night actually turned out pretty nice once the tension was gone. My dad's emergency ham was a lifesaver, and everyone agreed that next year, we're either going to a restaurant or just skipping Thanksgiving altogether. So now I'm sitting here wondering how this even became my life. I'll post photos later because you all need to see the turkey gelatin mold to believe it, but for now, I'm off to grab a drink, or 3, with my cousin to laugh/cry over everything that went down. This Thanksgiving was truly something else, and I don't know whether to feel relieved it's over or brace myself for whatever fresh chaos my sister has planned for next year. Stay tuned for photos, it's going to be worth it.
One of my coworkers asked about my Hot Wheels collection after she saw them on my desk, and the next day I walked in to find the ones I have been looking for, with a note on top, and now I'm head over Hot Wheels for her. So, couple days ago one of you Redditors posted a Hot Wheels haul. I was with a coworker and they were asking me about Hot Wheels as I got them on my desk and walls. I was telling them that this Redditor just literally got the cars I've been looking for and that I couldn't even find one. Well, I walk into work this morning and on my desk are the cars, and the Bumblebee is the metallic one on top of even finding it. What's my next move here? I gotta ask her on a date, right? Update 1. Had a super bad day at work, then Sam stopped by at my office an hour before the day ended. She had me giggling like within 30 seconds of her stopping at my door. We got to chit-chatting talking about the impending doom Texans are about to face and what we had planned for the weekend. She said she was just gonna be home and probably be bored. I could see the hints being dropped but my brain was just not picking them up and I was starting to panic. So I just looked at her and said, "Go Hot Wheels shopping with me tomorrow. They'll show you what the hunt is like. We can grab lunch, boys." She jumped out of the chair and said yes. My heart was racing. Lamau. Anyways, we got a date tomorrow planned for Hot Wheels shopping and lunch, and maybe a movie. Bowling? I was thinking arcade. Update 2. Well, we went on our date. I dusted off my other ride in the morning, gave it a wash, then gave myself a wash, stopped at Starbucks for our usual, then headed to her place to pick her up. I got out and went up to her door, coffees in hand, took a breath and knocked on the door. She opened the door and immediately was all smiles. I practiced which coffee was hers, so naturally I gave her my cup even though I knew hers was in my left hand. But anyways, after fumbling with it we started walking back to the car and she's immediately noticed I was not in my daily. I daily a Camry TRD, and my fun car is an Audi S6. She's questioning me about it, and I'm telling her it's my other ride that I take out on special occasions. She's gushing over my car, you guys. Noticing all the little things and commenting on things I had done to it. I have this emotional support vehicle sticker on my quarter windows and she was having a laughing fit over it. Anyways, we went across Houston to different Targets, Walmarts, DTs, FDs, Krogers, stopped at an Ulta to buy some hair stuff she wanted, took note of some of the stuff she liked and had picked up and placed down, and I made it point to stop by the colognes under the guise that I might want something to see what she liked since the perfumes are right next to the colognes. Plan on getting her a little basket of stuff for Valentine's Day. Then, around 2 my stomach makes a whale call in the car, we laughed about it and decided on sushi, so I took her to my go-to sushi spot. While we're eating I'm dealing with the whole overdrive thing. So naturally I word vomit more Hot Wheels like an idiot, but she was engaged the entire time. We finish up eating, and we go walking to this arcade called Cidercade, arcade and hard ciders. We played games and drank for a couple of hours. The day was gorgeous. Was decide to go walking downtown some more. It's getting kinda of hot for me, so I took me hoodie off and she pretty much gasped and it hits me. She's never seen me without long sleeves. I have a half sleeve tattoo. She grabs my arm and immediately is like, "Oh my god, the detailing is great, I love this," and I'm literally blushing and at the same time getting the biggest confidence boost that what took over me, but I just grabbed her hand and we continued walking. We had been flirting the entire day, the bumping each other, the giggling, the weather, the drinks, it all just felt right. We locked fingers and kept walking, swinging hands, just chit-chatting. At this point I just wanted to know more about her, felt like I had vomited everything about me, so just kept on asking more about her and learned a lot aside from the superficial stuff I already knew from work. Couple more hours of walking, 2 ice cream cones, we decided to go back to my place to hang out and listen to some music. We arrived at my place and what's waiting for me at the door? Big ass box of Hot Wheels, the sealed set arrived. This day could have not been better. I moved it inside, let her in, show her around, showed her the garage, my bike, more Hot Wheels, showed her my plants, where I work out, the stray cat that won't let me adopt him but uses me for food, showed her the neighbor who hates me because the bike is annoying or whatever. We decided to continue to drink and listen to music up until maybe 2 a.m. We danced, battled, we played Jenga, made a frozen pizza, burned it, still ate it. Come bedtime, I offered to Uber with her back to her place, and I would Uber back since I didn't want her to go alone and I wasn't in any condition to drive, or I offered my spare bedroom or my bed if she was comfortable. She elected for my bed. Gave her a t-shirt, hoodie, new pair of boxers, some joggers, and we went to bed. We cuddled all night long into the morning. I woke up first in the morning, didn't want to be a creep and just keep staring at her, she's so beautiful BTW, anyways, got up, and made coffee and a breakfast scramble with toast. She woke up as I was wrapping up cooking. Gave her a toothbrush. Mama said you always gotta have spare toothbrushes at home. We had breakfast, talked a bit more than I drove her home. She kissed me goodbye, didn't slam my door, and when I got home, I went to clean the car. In my passenger door was a scrunchie. I am officially Mark Lamau. She did text me 30 minutes or so after I dropped her off that she had a great time and thanking me for everything. I told her that she still got me smiling and that I open to hang out again whenever she wants. She hearted my message and said she's looking forward to the next one. So yeah. I'm head over boots here. Guys. I think she is the one. We've known each other for like 2 years now. She was the person who trained me when I got hired, and sadly I quickly got shuffled into another department, so we didn't each other as much, but we always would teams each other to go to lunch and whatnot. About 8 months ago one of directors got let go, shook up the entire tree, moved my boss up and somehow I inherited his role, and then Sam's department got merged into mine. She was now in my office space, so I would make it a point to have Candy in my desk and print my documents at the printer closer to her office so that I had a reason to go over there and drop off a Jolly Rancher or whatever. Not sure why I honestly took this long for us to make it out of the office, but I'm extremely happy it finally.
My kids started calling my new husband Dad after their real one never showed up for them, but one day he came back, and the kids turned on my new husband immediately, just for him to leave again. Posted by u/glitteringhumor802. Okay, I know the title sounds bad, but for some context, I, 36F, have twins with my ex, 42M, a girl, Olivia, and a boy, Enzo, who are now 16 years old. My ex is one hell of a jerk. We ended our relationship because he had cheated on me while I was pregnant, and not happy with that, he never paid child support and was absent from their lives most of the time, only coming back once or twice during the year to play the fun dad, but well, of course his absence affected my kids a lot. Anyway, when Olivia and Enzo were a year old, I reconnected with an ex from high school, Ian, 36M, and we started dating. The main reason we had broken up is that I wanted kids in the future and he wasn't sure, and since 2 seemed more than enough for me, that problem was out of the way. Ian wasn't involved at first with Olivia and Enzo, but after we moved in together over 2 years later, he began to help me with them without me having to ask, which I was really grateful for, and they eventually formed a bond. We got married, and Olivia and Enzo called Ian Dad for as long as I can remember, although they always knew he wasn't their biological father. Ian and I make the same amount of money, and we live in a house I inherited from my father, and Ian only earns a bit less than me. There's not a big difference. With time, my ex went from showing up once or twice a year to not showing up at all for a couple of years, which is when their bond became even stronger, and Ian told me he wanted to adopt them because he saw them as his own kids, and he truly felt like their father. However, that never actually happened because it was a legal mess in our country we didn't want to get into. Now, last year and out of the blue, my ex showed up again, claiming to be a different man now and wanting to rekindle their relationship. They fell for his act despite Ian and I warning them about not trusting him completely, which is okay, I guess. They have a right to want a relationship with him. The problem started when they began to ignore Ian. It's like they were treating him like a replacement they no longer needed, and of course my husband noticed this. One night, it escalated because they were having a really dumb fight that started because Enzo had not cleaned the kitchen after cooking, and we have this important rule in the house that pretty much means that each one is usually responsible for cleaning their own mess, and well, Ian just went inside their room to tell him he needed to clean, and Enzo began to yell at him. Olivia joined in and they were telling him how exhausted they were about Ian treating them as if he were their real father, that they had a father and he shouldn't act like one just because he didn't have kids of their own. I remember Ian just left the house that night without saying a word, and I told Olivia and Enzo they had made the wrong choice treating Ian like this, and when their real dad leaves again, I didn't want to see them crawling back to the one who actually took care of them and was always there. Ian came back the next day, and he was incredibly upset. I did my best to comfort him, and he told me he felt disrespected and that there was no coming back from this. It was hard to hear, but I told him that if he no longer wanted to be involved in the twins' lives, I wouldn't be angry at him. He cried a lot that night, and cried himself to sleep during the next days. It was awful to see him like this, and I couldn't do anything but try to comfort him. I tried to talk to my kids, to tell them they really needed to apologize, but they refused completely, saying they had a dad and didn't need them, and it made me question what kind of kids I was raising. As predicted, from one day to the other, left the city and never called Olivia or Enzo again. When they realized what had happened, they were devastated. I was there for them, but it shocked me how they wanted to pretend everything was okay between them and Ian, calling him dad again. Ian simply told them he was not their dad and would clearly never be. This has been going on for a while. They were thinking Ian would change his mind eventually and forgive them, but that has not happened. As a last card, they came to me and told me to speak to Ian, and I told them we had talked many times, and it was clear Ian would no longer be involved in their lives, which is what they wanted anyway, so I don't know what the problem was. They were shocked with my response, and kept trying to convince me, but I made clear that my husband is a human with feelings, not a wallet and a replacement for the pathetic man they like to call real dad, and that if they thought they could disrespect people that care for them without any consequence, then they were very, very wrong. I told them there was no going back from this, that things would not be the same and they had themselves to blame for that. They shouldn't have taken for granted a person that was always there for them. They went crying to my mom after that, and she told me she understood why I was upset with them, but couldn't side with my husband in this, that they are kids that made a mistake a second chance, and I should try to solve things. And to be honest, I don't think I can. I love my kids and they will always be my priority, and this has not changed my love for them, but I also love my husband, and he's such a great man who stepped up when he didn't have an obligation and was such a support for me and for the kids. He was the father they never had for so long, and even if I try, I don't think I'm even close to know the amount of pain that can cause you to have the kids that you raised as your own for years to tell you you're not their real dad and to treat you as literal trash. As much as I want them to make up, I know my husband is so hurt and they caused that over what? A man they had seen barely like 7 times in their whole life? Ian is now convinced that Enzo and Olivia don't love him and only saw him as a replacement, and he thinks that if their real dad ever shows up again, they would treat him like crap again, and well, although I don't think my kids would do that, I know he has every right to feel that way, and if Ian no longer feels comfortable involved on my kid's life, then I don't think I can contradict him. They just broke the relationship. Ian is usually a pretty reasonable man, and he has thought a lot about this, so I know that he's sure about his choice. I know he has been crushed with this, and now he wants us to have a kid, but I have told him no because I believe he just wants to replace Olivia and Enzo. Despite respecting my husband's decision, I don't want my kids to lose the man they've seen as their father ever since they can remember. I know it's going to crush them and it will affect them even more in the future, and sometimes I wonder if I should listen to my mom and try to talk Ian into trying to repair their relationship. But I don't know, am I a jerk? Downvoted commenter, I feel like you and your husband, are forgetting these are children. You're being super immature. Children learn things on their own. Yes, they were wrong for how they treated Ian, but they're kids. You're acting like they're in their 30s and man's this decision. Their frontal lobes aren't even fully formed. Parenting is supposed to be about unconditional love and support. Instead of rejecting them to teach them a lesson, why don't you act like the adult in the room and have a conversation with them like people and explaining your side so they can also explain theirs? Because you're an adult. OP, they're 16 years old, only 2 weeks away from turning 17. Treating this as some dumb mistake kids do surely won't be a mistake I make. What they did was terrible, and they still haven't actually tried to mend things, haven't even apologized yet. With the logic of teenagers do dumb things you cannot justify much, and this definitely isn't one of those things. Update. 8 months later, so, I know it's been a while since I last posted, I had even forgot to be honest, but I opened Reddit today and figured I could update, since things have changed this past months, although I doubt anyone remembers about it. Well, I'm gonna start by saying that, despite the accusations I received of being too harsh on my kids here, I consider I acted well by not cuddling them and by not taking their side. Not because I wanted them to suffer, but to show them actions have consequences, that you can't walk over anyone, and you can't take any relationship granted. However, I did let them know things hadn't changed between us, that I loved them just as much, that nothing would change that, and that I wanted to help them heal from everything. I don't remember mentioning it, but my kids went to therapy to deal with certain issues when they were young, but stopped going because they felt like they didn't need it anymore, even the therapist said so. But after everything, I came to the obvious conclusion they were too vulnerable to manipulation and that their biofather's actions had affected them worse than I though, so I tried to convince them to go back. It was hard, but I managed to convince Olivia at first, and she ended up convincing Enzo. It took some time, but they began to heal, slowly. They made progress, and they both wrote 2 different long messages to Ian, acknowledging what they did wrong and apologizing for everything, explaining why they did it and telling him they regret what they've done to him. Of course, This didn't fix things didn't go back to normal, but Ian accepted the apology and they have been cordial ever since. So, as I mentioned in the last post, all they said and did affected my husband terribly. He also started therapy, and he opened to me about everything. It took a while for him to go back to his old self, but he did, and we decided to take a 1-month vacation to get away from things. Ian and I are better than ever, to be honest. He was really thankful I had supported him, and told me he didn't think he could have gotten out of that hole if it weren't for me. When it comes to the talk about having kids, we have been discussing it seriously. He mentioned at first, he thinks it did come out as a suggestion that came from all the hurt that Olivia and Enzo put him through, but that he has been talking about it with his therapist, and came to the conclusion he does want kids of his own. The only reason why he thought he didn't want to be one was because his father was terrible and was terrified of repeating patterns, but with Olivia and Enzo, he had learned he really wanted to be one. But since he had them, he didn't think he'd want to have any more. Now, he lost them and wants to know what it is to have a kid he can raise, take care of, and to love each other. We discussed it for a couple of weeks, and then started trying, and I found out I was pregnant last month. Ian has been really happy. Even Enzo and Olivia are excited to have a sibling, which is quite unexpected. And I'm honestly scared to have to give birth again, because it wasn't at all a nice experience, but I want to have another kid. Anyway, as I mentioned, Ian, Enzo and Olivia are now cordial. Sadly, I doubt they can rebuild what they had, but I guess only time will tell if there's a chance for Ian to change his mind. Enzo and Olivia were pretty sad with dealing with the fact that things may not go back to what it was with Ian, but I've told them they need to focus on themselves right now. They finished secondary school last year and will start university in March, so they will move to the capital next week. I told them to focus on their lives, their friends and their career, and let time heal some wounds. It's the only thing they can do now, and finally learn that no matter how badly they want to believe otherwise, their bio-father is a terrible father and a terrible man that wants nothing but to manipulate them, and they need to stand up for themselves. So, this is pretty much it for now. If anything else changes, I may edit this if I remember to do so. Thanks for all the nice comments on the last post. Goodbye. My sister has banging my husband, now ex-husband, ever since she pulled up to our cousin's birthday party in a very revealing outfit last year and caught his eye, and the only reason I know is because of my niece. Posted by u/throwaway34455 and u/throwaway_23434. So yeah, I needed to get this off my chest. It's thrown me for a loop. I, 46F, was with my husband, 47M, since I was 21. We got divorced 2.5 years ago. We just grew apart and mutually agreed that the best thing for us was to go our separate ways. It was relatively amicable as these things go. We have 3 boys, 22, 19, and 16. My sister also is in the process of a divorce. Her soon-to-be ex was cheating on her with a coworker of his. My sister has 2 kids, 10 and 6. Apparently one night last year after my cousin's birthday party the 2 of them ended up having intercourse. I remember the night because my sister showed up in a very revealing outfit and was turning heads all night. Little did I know one of the heads she turned belonged to my ex-husband. They've been sleeping together off and on ever since. I know they're both adults and neither is in a relationship, but it still seems weird to me and I don't understand why my sister would go there. For that matter, I don't understand why my ex would do this. He's a really attractive man, he always has been. He shouldn't have much trouble finding a woman to date, yet he chose my sister? Perhaps he's more angry about our divorce than I thought? My niece mentioned to me that he's been around with mommy a lot. So I asked about it and he just flat out admitted what's been going on. When I adopted my sister, she didn't even try to deny it and said they're both adults and they're not hurting anyone. According to her, it's just the cracking and there are no intentions of them being together as a couple. I don't know why this bothers me this much. Maybe because when I met my husband we were in college and my sister was in elementary school. Were they looking at each other while they were both married? I asked both of them if they ever messed around while we were married and they both denied it. Maybe I'm foolish, but I believe them. Commenter: sounds terrible for you. Having bad siblings is hard. Good luck. Up. Thanks. We were never super close because of the age difference, but this is something I never expected could happen. I'm more disappointed in my ex TBH. My sister always was a spoiled brat who wanted her way no matter what. I don't know what is going through his mind though. Commenter 2. I believe it's normal that this would bother anyone. Because as you mentioned, you asked if anything happened before between them. It would make anyone reevaluate past exchanges, possible red flags, etc. So to me, It's understandable to feel that way even if you're okay with it. They could be telling the truth, and maybe you trust both of them, before this. But that's why when this happens, an ex and a sibling cracking after, it makes it complicated. The not knowing if you've been a fool, been lied to, etc., even if what they are doing is innocent, and nothing happened in the past. They both should have thought about it too. Because if you're wondering this, others will too. It's just reality. And what if it does turn into a relationship as most repeated encounters do? It might be worth exploring this with a counselor just so you have someone you can talk to regularly. Just so you can get an alternate, third-party perspective. And an outlet for discussing this without other family and friends getting involved. One reason I really don't believe they did anything while my husband and I were married because while we were married we both had access to each other's phones, computers, etc. It would have been nearly impossible for them to hide something like this while he and I were still living together. As I posted, our divorce was basically because of two people who had grown apart and TBH we weren't in love anymore. There was no anger or anything like that. We just agreed to go our separate ways. Update. 5.5 months later. I made a post on here a while ago about my ex-husband and sister sleeping together, and a lot had happened since then. I took some of the advice from the comments and have decided to NC with my sister and LC with my ex-husband for the sake of our youngest, 16, son. I called both of them over to my house and informed them of this and that even if they thought that they weren't hurting anyone, that they were hurting me, and it genuinely made me feel disgusted to think that they would choose each other out of everyone in the world. I said, well, I believe they never slept together while we were married. As they said, I don't believe that the thought was never there, and two people who claim to love me would never do this to me. I explained to my sister that even if they didn't plan for things to go beyond cracking, that the fact that she would do this to me meant I could no longer have contact with her or children, because if it ever became something more I would be even more hurt that for what she was doing. I told my ex that I would like to only communicate through a parenting app, which some of you suggested, until our youngest was of age, and then I would be a minimal contact as possible from then on. I asked him if he was doing this to hurt me, which he denied. I asked how long he had these feelings for my sister and he said it just happened. I talked to my kids about this, not to turn them against their father, but to inform them of my reasons for going NC and LC with their aunt and father, and so they can make their own decision and talk about how they feel. All three were livid and have talked about going NC with their father as well, but I encouraged them to take time and think about it and to not think they needed to do this just because I was. As you can imagine, a 19-yo and a 16-yo are not the best at keeping secrets, so word got around the family and the town we live in, which is fairly small. Apparently a lot of other people thought this relationship was wrong as well. Something I never expected though was the reaction from my parents that my father went off on my sister asking how she could do this. Why would she do this? My mother was more concerned about the age gap. As I said, when my ex and I were in college, my sister was in elementary school. They informed her that as long as she continued this relationship with my ex, he nor she were welcome in their home. Also, people have started to speculate that they were sleeping together way before either of our divorces, and saying that is the reason her husband was cheating on her and may have been the reason for mine and my ex's as well. Like I said, I choose to believe them when they said they didn't, but I guess you never know. They attempted to defend themselves for a while, but eventually they cut contact and began avoiding each other like the plague, I guess, in an attempt to curb any more weird look or snide comments about them being a homewrecker and a creep. My sister did give me somewhat of an apology, saying she really didn't think that I would have minded since we ended on okay terms, which I don't full believe because they went out of their way to keep it a secret, but I informed her that I am still sticking to being NC with her for the time being. My ex's relationship with our sons is still strained. He asked if I could speak to them, but seeing as the oldest are adult, there isn't much I can do. Our 16-yo still visits with his father once a month if he wasn't, but most of the time he doesn't, and we both agreed he's old enough to make the choice himself. So that's pretty much it. I still don't know how I feel about all of this. It sucks that I can no longer see my sister the same way and that my children's relationship with their father has come to this, but I guess this is my life now. There is still so much about the situation that I want to, but may never, know, and maybe that's for the best. Thank you for all those who comment on the original post and all the words of encouragement. You all really helped me realize that what they were doing was wrong, and for myself, I didn't need them in my life. I hooked up with the love of my roommate's life without knowing they had feelings for each other, and then got in a relationship with her brother, and now he's been acting really strange around me. Posted by /throwaway plus advise. Throwaway because I have friends who follow me on Reddit, and I just can't deal with talking about this situation anymore. The title sounds so awful it's making my stomach cramp, but please hear me out. I, 26F, recently moved to a different country for my master's program. It's been an adjustment, but I've made a lot of interesting friends and I feel like I've really grown into myself after distancing myself from my extremely loving, but suffocating family. I moved into this lovely place during my second semester. It's in a great location and the rent's decent. But the best part of living here has undoubtedly been my roommate, 27F. Let's call her Vic. She's one of the loveliest people I've ever met, so open and sweet and fun-loving. We fell into a really deep friendship almost immediately. She also immediately welcomed me into her friend group, which includes her twin brother, more on him in a while, who are all lovely and kind as well. This is where the problem starts. I met this guy while on my way back to the house a few weeks after I moved in. We made eye contact and I swear I felt something shift, as corny as it sounds. We realized we were walking in the same direction and he quickly walked in front of me, which I later learned was because he didn't want me to feel like he was following me home. He actually ended up just walking into the house ahead of me, and this is where I learned that he, 27, let's call him Paul, and Vic were close friends. This is the extremely important part. Vic and Paul always acted completely platonically in front of me. Vic, by then, had introduced me to a ton of her male friends and she didn't act any differently towards them. Vic also hooked up with someone else during the time I had been there, so this all seemed normal to me. Fast forward a few months. I'm completely in love with Paul. Or I think I am. We both have a special interest in music, so we attended a lot of live music events together and record covers. He plays guitar and I sing. Stuff like that. Most of the time, it's completely platonic, but there were a few times in between where we'd have these moments. Some important information: I'm extremely romantically inexperienced. Growing up in a sheltered family and as a plus-sized woman really made me doubt myself in this area. I had trouble believing anyone would be genuinely interested in me, even though I'm somewhat aware that I've grown into my looks. I still feel fundamentally unattractive. So, anyway, even though we have these moments, I don't really believe anything's going to happen between us. I don't bother telling anyone except my sister and a few friends back home. Then something changed. We cracked one night after a concert. I'm not a V-card owner, but encounters have been few and far between, especially because I've never been in a relationship. I ended up crying because I'd never felt such a deep connection before and he was so tender with me. The next morning, he acted completely normal and I was too terrified to rock the boat. He ended up ghosting me for 2 weeks. By this point, I'd sobbed my eyes out to Vic about him but refused to reveal who the guy was because I didn't want to cause complications. And, honestly, I felt so low. I genuinely believed they would choose each other over me because she hadn't known me that long. I really wish I had been transparent. At the end of the 2 weeks, Vic was having a dinner party and Paul showed up early. He looked regretful but not too bad overall. Meanwhile, I was a mess. I tried not to show my anger at him and behaved normally, but it didn't matter because Vic and Paul announced that they were finally officially together that same night. I was so shell-shocked, I felt numb. Her twin brother, let's call him Josh, casually remarked that he never thought they'd actually get their heads out of their butts and start dating. Everyone laughs except me. All this is news to me because neither of them had never even hinted to me about her long and abiding feelings for him. Apparently their getting together was such a foregone conclusion that the group just never mentioned it anymore. I learned from Josh that night that they'd been on the verge of getting together in high school but mutually decided that they were too young and wanted to play the field before settling down with each other. Which, I guess, meant they decided it was time. I honestly have no clue how I held it together. I managed to corner Paul later and confronted him. I was really pissed at him, but he sort of turned it around on me. He told me that he never made me promises and that he hadn't actually done anything wrong because Vic had also been having flings around the same time. Both of these things are true, but I genuinely felt like we had something deeper than that. He apologized for leading me on but denied ever feeling that way. He even offered to tell Vic about it. Here's where I think I messed up again. My self-esteem had taken such a beating by this point that I felt too humiliated to tell anyone else. Vic had seen me break down over the love of her life just recently. I was so scared that she'd hate me or pity me and I'd lose her friendship over what I believed was just me being inexperienced and overreacting over a one-night stand. I told him we should just pretend nothing happened and that I couldn't spend time with him alone anymore. He seemed upset but understanding. Fast forward again several weeks. I had coursework, so I really buckled down and shut myself off from everyone. It worked out well because I didn't have to face Vic and Paul being in love in front of me. I want to clarify that I had no ill feelings towards either of them at this point. I just felt more self-hatred and self-pity and I wanted so badly to move on. Which leads me Josh. Josh is a consummate flirt. He hits on people non-discriminately and has a lot of casual intercourse. He's always flirted with me, but I assumed it was just how he acted with everyone, so I didn't think much of it. One day he proposed to help take my mind off things because I'd seemed so stressed lately. His meaning was pretty clear. Now, I knew this would complicate things, but I just wanted to stop hurting. And honestly, Paul and Vic seemed so happy and Josh was so unserious, I didn't think anyone would notice or care. Long story short, we started hooking up. Now, the intercourse with Josh was great and he's such a funny and caring guy, I did genuinely start to get lost in him. We became exclusive and eventually decided to give our relationship a real try. Vic was really excited for us. She told me she was happy to see her brother actually want to get serious with someone. I still had some reservations, but I do have genuine feelings for him. At this point, I stopped thinking about Paul at all and was focused on my relationship with Josh. The predicament I'm in today is that Paul has started acting really erratic about Joshua. He warned me early on that Josh was a player and would end up cheating on me when we went public. This shocked me because he was friends with Josh too and everyone agreed that Josh was always upfront with people. I told him off and he initially apologized, but he's been becoming increasingly surly and distant. Vic has confided in me about it. I have an instinct that it has something to do with me and Josh, but I'm having trouble trusting my gut because I got it so wrong the last time. I'm so guilty and pent up about this because I feel like I should tell her about the intercourse we had, but I could also be way off base and make things weird between us. Plus, it's been so long that I think she would resent me for hiding things from her. And now I have Josh to worry about. We've been transparent about our past, but I still can't bring myself to name names. I'm worried that telling the truth now will upend things. My sister and friends back home are divided about whether I should say anything. They're saying I technically did nothing wrong because I cut things off once they got together. Some of them, including me, think I should have been truthful from the get-go. It's just too late for that. I'd really like an outsider's perspective on this. Please don't hold back and be honest. I feel like I can barely sleep for all the guilt I'm feeling and I feel like I'm jeopardizing my relationships with both my roommate and boyfriend by being so secretive. Any advice would be appreciated. Edit. Thank you so much to everyone for weighing in. I can't reply to everyone, but I've read through all the comments and have considered all the wonderful advice you've provided. I think I've always known what I needed to do, but I needed the push from unbiased people. I've decided to tell Josh and Vic what happened. As many of you suggested, I'm telling Josh first. He'll be level-headed and will give me better insight into how I should broach the topic with Vic. I'm determined to do it as soon as I can in case I chicken out. If all goes well, or terribly, I'll try to post an update. Bye for now. Update. 2 days later. Let me just start by thanking everyone who have weighed in. You've been a huge help and gave me the push I needed, to be honest. The timing was essential because what would have happened if I waited even longer. As per the advice I received in my original post, I told Josh first. As I suspected, he was very chill about it. He was actually confused about why I was so worried about telling him because neither of us have ever made a big deal about our pasts. He did understand why I'd be hesitant about telling Vic though. He also told me that he hadn't really noticed Paul acting any differently, but that doesn't surprise me that much. I adore the guy, but he's not the most observant person. Anyways, he came to the same conclusion as everyone that the best way to go about it was to be honest and straightforward about it and explain my reasoning for not telling her. I stayed the night at his place and decided to confess everything in the morning. When I got home, I sat Vic down and told her that Paul was the guy I slept with before Josh. I apologized for not telling her earlier and explained why. She got really quiet and asked me if I've slept with him since. This is a really reasonable question, but it did hurt my feelings that she thought I could do that. I think she saw how upset I was when I reassured her that I hadn't, and I never even thought about it once I learned that they were dating, because she believed me. In fact, she hadn't been as surprised as I thought she'd be. She'd had some doubts because Paul hated talking about me and Josh in any capacity. At first, he laughed it off. Then he started getting really irritated. Apparently, he made the same remark he made to me about Josh potentially cheating on me, and Vic blew up at him. I guess he forgot how close Josh and Vic are? I have no idea. I had no clue what to say to this. I apologized again and she assured me that Paul's behavior was not on me. She did tell me that she wished I'd told her what Paul did before they started dating, but she was extremely understanding overall and kinder than I deserved. I don't think people understand how much of an angel this girl is. I had people in my comments speculating that she'd want me out of the house, but she went so far as to ask me about how I felt seeing them together after Paul ghosted me. I was in tears, not because of Paul, but because I felt like I had wasted so much time doubting Vic's kindness and maturity. Vic decided that she wanted to confront him with me by her side. She said that she doesn't trust him anymore and she felt like she was always being tricked and lied to by him. There was a part of me that wished I could have refused because I truly didn't want to get in the middle of that situation any more than I had, but I would have done anything Vic asked me at that point. I think Paul knew what was happening when he came over because he was acting really strange. Vic asked him point blank about what happened between us. He told her that we slept together and that we mutually decided not to make a big deal out of it. She pushed him about the timeline while I just sat there not making eye contact with anyone. I'm truly over him, but it was really humiliating for me to hear him talk about our one-night stand so detachedly. She pushed him again about when exactly we hooked up, and he was acting evasive about it. I felt a bit sick because I was starting to suspect why she wanted a specific date. He gave her the wrong date. Now this could be an honest mistake, but I doubted it. I remembered the exact day because it was right after the concert, so I corrected him. He looked so panicked, like he'd expected me to keep my mouth shut about his lies. Vic got really quiet and said, "So the day before you asked me to be your girlfriend?" I think he knew the jig was up. He went glassy-eyed and told us his side of the story. He said that he lied to me about not having feelings for me when I confronted him all those months ago. That he hadn't realized he had them until we had cracked. When he realized how strong his feelings were, he got scared because he felt like he was betraying Vic and decided he didn't want to delay their getting together anymore. He felt like he had to be with her because he'd been planning to for over a decade and that he thought his feelings for me would wear off. Apparently he hadn't counted on me moving on. He said he couldn't do it anymore and that he knows I won't take him back. We were never together, but he couldn't live a lie anymore. That's right. This MF thought he was doing the world some kind of favor by dating an extremely hot and incredible woman. I had no idea it's possible to have that much audacity. It still makes my blood boil thinking about it. Oh, and he wasn't done. He said if he were going by love alone then Vic would win, but he doesn't have romantic feelings for her anymore the way he does for me. Here's the thing. Neither of us agreed to be in competition for his affection, whatever the F that's worth. I blew the F up at him while Vic just sat there glaring at him. Vic kicked him out of the house really calmly, but I could tell she was in shock. I felt so strangely violated, my hands were shaking. I couldn't even begin to imagine how Vic felt. I didn't want to stay there anymore, but I couldn't leave Vic alone. I called Joshua, he was with a mutual friend, so they both came over. I had to take a beat to myself. I left them there and basically sobbed my eyes out in some poor guy's Uber. When I got home later, Vic and I cried some more and tried to discuss the issue. I kept apologizing, but at that point I had no clue what I was saying sorry for. I think I realized I was also being unfair to her by trying to get her to ease my conscience, so I left with Josh and have been staying at his place since. I've since talked to Vic on the phone. She insists that she knows it's Paul's fault and she'd have no issue with me coming back. I think she needs some space, but she's just too damn nice to ask. I've talked to Josh about this too, and he thinks that even if I had told Vic about the hookup earlier, Paul would have downplayed what happened between us because he was in such deep denial. I do think he's probably right, but God, do I wish I could turn back time and tell her the truth as it happened. I'm looking at some places now because I don't know if us living together is feasible right now. Fortunately, the semester has ended, so at least I'll be able to move if I need to. I will always want Vic in my life, but I'm finding it hard to be around her right now, and she probably feels the same. I'll revisit things with her in a week or so. Rest assured, both of us have blocked Paul. I have also dissuaded Josh from beating him up. For now. My sister wants to put an Etsy witch curse on him, whatever that means. This is a lengthy update, but I think I just needed to get it all out there. I don't know if I need advice because the situation is still so fresh. I'm open to it though. Any words of encouragement I can pass on to Vic would also be appreciated. She knows about these posts. This has been a lot of drama, but hopefully that's the end of it. Thank you guys for everything. My mom is saying I should be grateful to her for giving me $30,000 worth of debt and is telling me to just take the hit on this one and declare bankruptcy, so I told her we'll see how the police like that, and now she is panicking. This all started about a year ago when I was about to graduate college. I got a bill in the mail for a credit card which I knew wasn't mine. I've always paid my one credit card on time, and it was from a different company. My mom said she added me on her credit card as an authorized user, which is why I received that bill. This ended up being red flag number 1. Fast forward to about a month ago, and I'm looking into new apartments as I'm moving for my job. I found one I liked and applied for it, not thinking anything of it as my salary was well over their minimum requirements. I received an email saying my application was denied. A few days later, I got a letter in the mail explaining it was due to my credit. I figured it had to be a mistake, so I ended up taking a look at my credit score for myself. This was, I think, the first time doing it since I got my credit card a few years ago. I was floored when I saw my score, 490, and I had several accounts in collections. After some crying, I decided to call the electric company which one of the collection accounts was for, and they confirmed the address was my mom's current address. I got in touch with one of the credit card companies I saw, and the listed address was the same. I really didn't want to believe my mom opened these accounts, so I called her about them last week. My mom claimed to have no idea about the accounts and said I probably got hacked. She had never really done anything to betray my trust in the past, so I, foolishly, believed her at the time. One of my friends said I should report it to the police or otherwise I could end up owing tens of thousands of dollars. I made a police report and gave them all of the information. I called my mom and told her about the police report, and she said I needed to call and cancel it because it wouldn't do any good. She tried saying it was just wasting their time and I should call it off and just ignore it. Of course, I told her I couldn't do that because I didn't want to be on the hook for what ended up being around $30,000. She said I had to do it because she opened the accounts. We went back and forth for about 20 minutes and I was pissed. She finally said I just needed to take the hit on this one and declare bankruptcy. She literally told me I should be grateful to her for letting me go to college, so I should cancel the police report before they find out it was her. Between scholarships, grants and a small amount of student loan debt, she didn't pay for anything at all. I'm kind of conflicted. I don't really want my mom to go to jail, but from what I've read, declaring bankruptcy would basically prevent me from doing anything with my credit for a few years, and it would take a full decade to drop off. There are 9 accounts total with 3 in collections. What would you guys do? My sister has been shackling my dad to the confines of his family and not allowing him to date anyone since our mom passed away, and I'm talking full-on sob story if he ever goes on a date, so I told her to stop being a baby, and now she's furious. Posted by u/grouchy_jacket_5570. Hi, I said something meaning well, but even my dad whom I said it for thinks I went too far. So I'd like to have an unbiased opinion. My mom passed away almost 5 years ago. I was 24 at the time, my sister was 17. She's always been treated as the baby of the family by all of us, and she did take our mom's passing very hard. According to my dad, she'd have night terrors and he would go downstairs to get her water. She stayed with him for the first year of her college before moving out. A couple of years ago, my dad started dating someone, and when he told us, my sister went ballistic, full-on sobbing and begging him not to. The strain led to him breaking it off. Same story repeated once more after that. My dad told me she was young and still coming to terms with it, so he wouldn't take anything too far. Since last year, he's been dating another woman who has 2 young boys of her own. My dad seems to really enjoy her company. We've met her a few times, and honestly I love my dad and want him to be happy. He's a great guy and she seems to make him so. When he told us he wanted to have us all spend Christmas together, my sister again had an argument, said that Christmas with him was supposed to be her safe space. We had memories of us as a family with mom and asked him to hold off. He said yes, and I knew he would because of course he wasn't going to risk her not coming. Meanwhile, when talking to me, my sister has been asking me repeatedly if I think dad is going to marry this woman. I said I don't know, but if he wants to then I hope he does. Last weekend on the family group chat, my sister talked about moving stuff back to his place. That's when I learned that she was planning on moving back after she graduates in May, and my dad had agreed. I was so annoyed. She's pulling the same thing. This is clearly to monopolize his attention and not let his relationship with his girlfriend proceed further. I said as much in the group chat. She said she just wants to move back to be with dad and in the house where we have mom's memories. At this I told her to stop weaponizing our mom's death, and pretending like she was the only one affected and that the rest of us loved her less just because we want to look past the grief. That she was being manipulative and moving back when she had no plans prior to learning about his girlfriend. My dad kept texting me to shut up. My sister left the group chat. She sent me a long text chain essentially calling me an and that her relationship with dad is her own. My dad says I crossed a line and should make up with her. Ida? Him taking her side is what's hurting me the most. Update. Thank you for your comments. I spoke to my dad this morning and brought up not she is still in grief and it would be kind to her if we suggested therapy. My dad seemed on the fence about it. He said I should go ahead and suggest it to her if I want, but he's concerned if he says it she'll feel attacked and think she's a problem, as per him. So I don't know. I don't know how receptive my sister would be at this moment to what I say after what happened. I'll see. I'll try talking to her when she's more receptive. Also, I appreciate the comments saying the lecture I gave should have come from my dad, not me. My dad once drove 2 hours at night to give her a portable heater because the thermostat in her apartment was acting out and he couldn't have her wait till the morning for maintenance. The lecture wouldn't have come from him. It's why I said it. Commenter. Your sister seems to be trying to keep your mother alive by freezing the house and your dad the way they were when your mom was alive. In her mind, moving on equals killing your mom. That's understandable when the grief is still new and raw, but it's not healthy 5 years later. Talk to your father about this. Maybe a condition of her staying with him, for a limited period of time, could be that she has to get therapy, and you and or your dad should be there for the first session to ensure the unbiased truth is established. She must not move in unless and until she starts this therapy. She's guilting your dad and ruining his chances for happiness, and him allowing it isn't good for her. NTA. Update 1. 4.5 months later. Hi, I thought I'd give an update since I'd taken some advice from Reddit last time. I saw my sister the next time when she was home for her spring break and I'd also gone to visit. She had already moved some of her stuff back then. We had gone out to eat with Dad, but when we were back in alone I had asked how it had gone when my dad's girlfriend had visited. She said she was over once and like that was it. I had asked how my dad's girlfriend felt about her planning on moving back. She said it didn't come up and basically said she was moving back to her house. Why would his girlfriend care? Which to me seemed crazy, like of course she would have some thoughts about that. She spends time here, has stayed over here, her sons have visited. I took stock of the feedback last time, was gentle and understanding, and just said that I was sorry I wasn't here more in the months after Mom's passing, and we never really fully got the chance to grieve, and suggested therapy. She was offended by that, asked if I was implying she was crazy and was just like she's moving back home, what's the big deal? When I spoke to my dad in passing he had mentioned he hadn't gotten the chance to tell his girlfriend yet, because it was still in flux, that my sister's plans weren't certain yet, and seemed like he thought it wouldn't be a problem. We met again for Easter at my dad's place. His girlfriend and her 2 sons had also come. I don't recall if she said hi to them, but she maybe spoke like a sentence to them that entire time. Just spoke to me and Dad, and he was caught between entertaining her versus his GF and her kids. I tried to make them, especially the boys, feel comfortable. I even went to my sister and said that like this looks really rude, this is not how we do things, and she just said we have no common interests, what do you want me to talk about? I had gotten the advice that at some point while I love my dad and sister, it's time to step back. I didn't push anyone but really thought my dad would see that this was a precursor to what it would be like. I don't know if he didn't recognize that, or maybe he did but doesn't want to do anything about it, but either way, my sister has moved back. Her job that she's starting is WFH2, or I think she has to go in occasionally, for which she'll make the 1-hour drive, she said, but she has moved back. I have no idea what her plan was, if she had gotten her job somewhere else and had to go in, but it seemed to have worked out for her. I haven't gotten the chance to visit since. I'm going to visit them on Monday, but I've just reminded myself what I was told, that it is their relationship, and it's my dad's call at the end of the day. Update 2, 4 days later. Just a last update since some people had asked. Monday was off, so I visited my dad's place to spend the day, but I ended up staying overnight accidentally because we were all watching Supernatural at night on a full stomach and dozed off in front of the couch. I had to go to work in my sister's clothes today from my dad's place. So my sister is back at their place fully and has settled in. And like I said, I was going to not get involved anymore and instead just had a good time there. My dad seems happier that she's there. She is helping with chores, making dinner, etc. We went for a walk around the block in the evening, which apparently they have now started to do regularly, which I'm glad for, that my dad is getting physical exercise and keeping some yards in. I did ask him how she was doing when we were alone. I hadn't told him yet that I had suggested therapy to her for help with grief counseling. My dad had been the one who had suggested I broach the subject a while back because he didn't want to be the one to do it and have her think that he considers her a problem. I told him about the exchange just so he was aware. He just asked me to drop it, that it's fine, she seems to be doing well at least since she's returned. I joked that I should move back into and accumulate some savings. I definitely won't, it'll be tough with my BF, and I like my privacy, and he just joked, who's stopping you? I mean, I only came on here because I just wanted my dad to not be alone the way he had been when I was busy and my sister started living at her dorm. I had been really busy, maybe also as a coping mechanism at the time, and felt guilty about Dad not having anyone and having not been there to help with my sister. But he seems happier right now with my sister around. I do genuinely think his GF is a good woman for him, and it's probably doomed now, but he can make his decisions. I know he won't be able to go through with it if it comes at the cost of my sister being hurt, I know that. I hope in that case, having us is hopefully enough, and has happy. Thank you to everyone who gave me advice, and detaching myself from the situation was helpful. This is probably my last update. I already know how this is going to end, but I think maybe this is what my dad wants. Thanks.
My sister has constantly complained for the last 3 months about how my newborn baby is annoying her, so when she told me she could babysit him I told her no, and that I didn't trust her, and now she's furious. Posted by you/babysmamasgone. I'm a 19-year-old man with a 3-month-old son. His mother surrendered her rights and is no longer in the picture. I work 4 a.m. to 12 p.m. at a gas station and I raise my son, that's what I do these days. Only one of my friends still speaks to me and hangs out with me. I live at home with my parents and sister, 21, and pay a small rent each month. I can't afford to move out with the baby. My parents help me when they can. My sister doesn't like my son, she once told me she thinks he's an annoyance and hindrance. If he cries she complains. If there's baby clothes in the laundry she complains. Basically the baby exists and that pisses her off. I'm not perfect but I'm trying my best to be a good dad. My sister has never offered to help with the baby beyond holding him briefly and she hasn't done that more than about 4 or 5 times since he was born. The other day my friend called and offered me a really great opportunity for some side work. He works construction and they needed an extra guy for some installation work. 4 hours and I'd get $400. I jumped at it, any extra money can only help. I started trying to find a babysitter. My sister was hanging out in the living room while I walked around the house on the phone. I managed to find a sitter who said she didn't want to be paid and went to get the baby ready. My sister asked me why I didn't ask her when she was sitting right there. I told her I didn't think she'd want to since she'd never offered to help before. She told me it was different, this was for work and not just me wanting to sleep or whatever, and he was about to go down for his nap and he's pretty easy when first wakes up. She told me it wouldn't be a problem. I asked her why she didn't say something between phone calls and she said she didn't think she needed to because we're family and family asks each other for help. I reminded her of all the times she'd complained about the baby and me and called him names and told me she waited he'd never been born and asked her why she thought I'd ever trust her with my son. She started crying and told me that wasn't fair and I needed to remember that the whole house was dealing with a baby and she was just having a hard time adjusting but she'd never do anything to hurt him. I told her she should have spoken to me about her feelings instead of acting like a child, took my son and left. When I got home both my parents set in on me because my sister told them I'd accused her of bad intentions to the baby. Ida for being honest when my sister offered to babysit? Commenter. NTA. She only offered because she thinks she'll be paid. Your instincts are correct. With everything she's said about your son she'd be the very last name on the list. Remind your parents of the comments she's made. You have no reason at all to trust her when it comes to your kid. ETA. Thinks she'll be paid as she heard brother offered to pay even though she declined payment. Op. C. I did remind my parents of every time she said something negative and they said that was just her being her and I should know that she'd step up when I need her. Apparently I'm not supposed to judge people's intentions based on their words. Commenter 2. NTA. Nah for most of that, but it disintegrated a bit at the end. Can't blame you for thinking she wouldn't be interested, or her for volunteering when it's work related. Trust her with your son is a bit much. What's she going to do, exactly? But then she started crying, and your parents took her side, so they all suck for that. Op. I was just worried that if he got fussy or wouldn't settle she might yell at him or just ignore him, something like that. She plays video games with a big pair of headphones and I just don't know if she would think to leave them off, or would do so if I asked her to. I've never seen her with a baby longer than 5 minutes, and we have no younger siblings/cousins. I don't think she's ever held a baby before my son. Commenter 3. Nah, and maybe even Uda at the very least. She started crying and told me that wasn't fair and I needed to remember that the whole house was dealing with a baby and she was just having a hard time adjusting. That's an extremely fair point. It's not like she insults him either, she just complains about him. Op. Not arguing, just clarifying, she has literally insulted the baby before. She refers to my son as it, she calls him a little she says he's ruining everyone's life, she says that she wishes he was never born. There was no point including that in the op because it doesn't add or subtract from the story and every time I tried to write it out it sounded like I was just whining and adding stuff for sympathy. Update. Apparently God is on my side right now. The lady I mentioned in the post who babysat my son for me, she goes to church with my mom and when I dropped my son off I explained that I was having trouble finding a sitter or paying for daycare. She called the pastor and explained the situation and 2 days a week my son can attend the church nursery school from 7 a.m. to 12 p.m. for free, and the lady has offered to take my son 1 day a week during the same time frame and has also found another lady who will take him for 1 day a week, same time frame. The ladies both requested $50, which I'm happy to pay. That means there's only 1 day a week and 3 hours in the mornings that I need childcare and my mom has agreed to watch him for the 3 hours and drop him off. I still have to figure out Fridays but Monday to Thursday are covered. I can breathe again. My brother pointed a loaded gun at me and shot it, but my whole family is willing to forgive him. Posted by you/RainDioman. My brother, 32M, His GF, 30F, and I, 27M, all live with our mother. I'd give more detail on that, but it's not the point of this post, so I'll only give more detail if someone asks. My brother has been stealing money from our mom every day, to buy Dunkin' Donuts coffee, from this coin jug she has. It's a water jug, but empty, and she just throws her coins into it. The first few times he tried to hide it from all of us, but on the fourth time, he was forced to put the jug back with me in the room, and he said, "Don't judge me, I need it, and I gave her $800 last week. If she wants to bark at me for $4, she can." I didn't know what to say, so I just didn't say anything. I'll spare the extensive details of my line of thinking, but the short version is that I just didn't want to start a scene since I had faith he'd atone once he could, and this was from desperation. I will say that I don't agree with any of his justifications. I don't think you could justify stealing from your mom, especially when she sacrifices so much for you. Also, it was $4 every day, so I don't know why he said $4 unless he was trying to reduce guilt or something. Yesterday was day 6 and the breaking point. He needed coffee again, and I told him that I had bought coffee for the home to save us money and would make him some if he'd like it. I gave him the coffee and he said it was too watery. Yay, it's going to be, it's pot coffee and you're used to Dunkin' Donuts coffee. Regardless, he said he didn't want it because it was watery and stole from mom's room to go buy from Dunkin' again. Now, this is eating at me so much that I gotta say something, so I call my other brother and ask for advice. He tells me that my fears are true, that this will cause a rift between me and my brother, but if I don't say something then I am not looking out for my mom and am condoning these actions. Actions have consequences, and it's not wrong to tell mom that he's been stealing from her. Flash forward to 5 p.m. and mom's home. I go on a walk with her and tell her what happened. She confronts my brother about it and he says, "Yeah, I took some change from you, but I gave you $800 last week. If you have a problem with it, how about you give me my $300 back?" My mom promptly responds with, "Yeah, sure I will, and you can get out today." My brother then screams and breaks a bunch of things. Mom follows after him to tell him to leave now. He attacks her and his girlfriend jumps in. I then jump in to break them up physically and he grabs me by the neck. Mom did escape due to the redirect, but now I'm fighting off 2 people. Mom reminds me that he's trying to get me to do something to get me in trouble, and I should just leave. I leave as soon as I am physically able to. I tell him that I'm going to call the police, and this reaches the main focus of my problems here. My brother yells at us that if we're going to ruin his life, he'll ruin it first and loads a revolver to shoot himself. I do not think about if he's going to shoot himself or shoot us. I see him loading a gun and screaming at us. I tackle him, along with the rest of us, and we try to remove the gun from his hands. He places it against my right thigh, around where my artery is, and I hear the gun click. I pry the gun away from him and I open it so I can remove the bullets. There was 1 bullet and it was 1 chamber off. He gets up and runs away, driving away in his car. The youngest speak of the rest of the events are: cops come, brother caught, mom sad, me mad, brother not jail, brother mental hospital, GF move out, brother call, brother berate us, brother narcissist, brother entitled. Me not speak to brother, me stay night at other brother's house for peace of mind. Now here's how I feel about this situation. I love both of my brothers, especially the one in question here. We've been ride or die since we were kids, and we've had a friendship closer than every friend I've had in my life. However, right now, I don't feel that way anymore. I don't trust him or like him. I don't want to see him for the foreseeable future, and we'll see him again eventually, but not for a long time, and not unless he actually goes through channels to better his life like therapy and whatnot. Bottom line is that I feel hurt, unsafe, and very angry with my brother. When I told my family this, they lashed out at me, saying that I should be willing to forgive him because they forgive me for my mistakes all the time, that he's really sorry about it now, that my feelings are ridiculous, or that I'm being holier than thou just because he made a mistake. When I got 4 people putting me down for not wanting to be there for my brother right now I gotta ask the court. I don't feel like my feelings are being respected at all, and I don't want to force myself to feel some way, talk to him or engage in our relationship just because it would be a shame to watch it end. I don't want to be around him, and apparently I suck because of that. Ada? P.S. I am still very angry, I'm sure you can tell, but I am asking this here so I can add others' non-emotional perspectives into my life so I can think on it more and hopefully make the right steps. I want to feel how I want to feel naturally, but I don't want to make the wrong decisions because of it. Thank you for your time. Commenter. He literally shot you. You had no idea which chamber the bullet was in, and you could be dead right now. You need to get TF away from all of these jerks and never talk to any of them again. I can't even believe you're willing to forgive him at a future date. Your life is in danger if you get near that grown, BTW, man ever again. He's 30 and acts like a 3-year-old. OP, yeah, I forgot to mention it, but didn't want to edit the post due to the update limit, but a big problem everyone is having with my feelings is that it didn't happen and I'm harping on a hypothetical. Stop living in a hypothetical world and start living in the now is a direct quote from my other brother. It just makes me feel like my concern isn't given the weight it deserves. If that bullet was 1 chamber over, I would be dead. All over the fact that he didn't want to take accountability for stealing from my mom. I don't like feeling hate for anything, but I don't want to force myself to not hate him for this just cause he's family. Screw me, man. Edit, I forgot to say thank you for the support. I appreciate you. Thank you for your time. Update, 1 day later. Firstly, I want to thank everyone for giving their support. It helped me communicate my feelings to my family and stand my ground. I do not trust my brother, I feel unsafe, and I do not forgive him. They keep trying to lessen his actions by saying he feels so bad, he loves me, he had a lot of stress, he had a mental breakdown, etc. etc. My mom even said, "Don't you go to church every Sunday? You can't forgive him?" I told her it feels like my feelings are being ignored, and she told me that I don't understand because I'm not a parent. She won't let either of her kids be homeless. She won't let her family be broken up. If I couldn't stand living with my brother, I could leave and live in my car. The family was broken up when he choked me. It was broken up when he pulled a gun. It was broken up when he pulled the trigger on my thigh. However, I can't change her mind. I feel unsafe, so I don't have a choice. I'll be living in my car for the foreseeable future. You gave me reassurance with your words, and while I admit that a car with no working AC in Florida is not an ideal living condition, I'm praying I can find my way back up out this pit. This sucks, but I would like to leave this family behind for my safety, my sanity, and my future. The reality of this is starting to hit me. I feel like I'm in shambles, but the genuine only other option is living in this house. She taught this man that he can do whatever and she'll bail him out of all consequence. I'm heartbroken, but the rest of this is for me to worry about. Thank you for your kindness and thank you for your time. You helped me realize that it is normal to feel the way I do about my brother and it is correct to stand my ground. After I hit post, I'm gonna let this pent-up emotion hit me in the sanctity of the backyard. Good night everyone, cherish your loved ones. Update number 2 in edit form. I will update the other post with the same info. Some of y'all called it. He was on psychedelic drugs. He's going to rehab, therapy and church, not religious, but it's for community. He is also on medication to help him with his conditions. I am not expected to forgive him, and I certainly want to keep things slow. I don't want to hate anything, much less my brother, but what he did was horrible and I don't want that getting ignored. I am moving in with my buddy. I will keep the door open for my brother, but I will keep things extremely slow and monitor his improvement over time. He's taking lessons in accountability and making major effort, including paying mom back, buying me plenty of things to replace what he stole from me and apologizing severely. I see in him that he recognizes what he did wrong and the danger he put me in. The last thing he told me today was, "I'm happy you're alive." My family acted quite crazy, and I think living on my own now is going to give me back a level of safety and control that I need. I am so unbelievably grateful to all of you who came in to offer advice, perspective, and outlets to find help. You gave me methods to word how I feel, strength to stand my ground and patience to stay strong and hopeful in what is undoubtedly the hardest time in my life. Now I can say I had a loaded gun pointed at me twice in my life. Lamau. What an icebreaker. To everyone, thank you so much and cherish your loved ones.